everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Andrea Warner, and I'm here with Chris Dayley. I'll tell you more about us in a minute. We're here today to talk about how to get more converting customers with your existing website and traffic. Okay, this is going to be really a lot of fun. So as I said, I'm Andrea Warner. Chris, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. There we go. I am a disruptive professor, and Chris Dayley is our Vice President of Testing and Site Optimization. And we are literally from all over the world today. I am calling you today from balmy Scottsdale, Arizona, where it's 100 million degrees. Chris, where are you today?
I'm in Linden, Utah. It's actually quite nice outside today.
It's not 100 million degrees? Oh, nice.
No, not quite, yeah.
That's great. I would love it if everybody on the call would open up the question box and just type in where you're calling in from today. I know we've got people from Italy and Michigan, but I'd love to hear where you're all from, too. Okay, so today we're going to do some live site reviews, and there are some things that I want you to think about as we do this. One is put on your thick skin. If we're reviewing your site, I know it's your baby. I know you love that site so much, and you've stayed up nights with it and loved it and cared for it. Put on your thick skin, and you'll get the best feedback possible, okay? And then the second thing to think about is that business owners see sites, and they see things like business owners. They don't see it like their customers do. You know, if you're a 45-year-old male, how are you really going to, you need to think about the perspective from the 65-year-old grannies that you're trying to sell to, okay? The next thing, we're going to follow a path that our customer travels to the conversion journey. A lot of times people will start on the home page and just think about how to optimize the home page when that is not, in fact, where most of your customers go. So we're going to look at that and think through that. And then the next thing we're going to do is help you prioritize what you're going to optimize for conversions based on the potential outcome. And again, this usually means not so much the homepage. So Chris is going to walk us through that. Okay, so we've got people here from Provo, Portland, Oregon, North Carolina, Raleigh, North Carolina, Minneapolis, St. Paul. People are typing in some places. That's great. It's so great to have you. Okay. So, Chris, you've got some things that you wanted to talk about. Let's do that, and then we'll get into our site review.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Chris again. I'm excited to be here with you guys. I'm going to just kind of talk about some of the things we're going to be looking at on these sites, and I just want to say first that these are my favorite kind of sessions to do. Live site reviews. They're always my favorite to attend. They're my favorite to be involved as a panelist on because it's real. It's real, applicable, real-time feedback, and we want to leave this session with some real takeaways for the people who we've selected to review their sites. And so I'm excited to do this. I think that, hopefully everyone will find this useful, and you guys will be able to take some of the feedback back to your own websites and apply it. So a couple of the things that we're going to be looking at today. So as Andrea mentioned, I'm going to be pulling up, we actually asked the two sites that we selected for today, we asked them for a little bit of background information before starting the webinar. And so I'm going to be using some of that background information, like what their ideal customer looks like, what kind of landing pages those people typically land on. And I will be using that to go through this as a potential customer would. And I'm going to be looking for a few different things on the site as I go through and review. Some of the things that I'll be looking at are what kind of potential distractions are there on the site? Are there things that are distracting the user from the main call to action or the value proposition you have on the site? I'm going to be looking at how clear the value proposition is. So is it easy for people to understand? If there's content on the site, is it easy for people to digest? Those types of things. And then we'll also be looking at a variety of other elements on the site, color contrast. We're going to be looking at images and a variety of other things. And so I'll point those out as we go through the various pages. And hopefully, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to chat in if you feel lost or if I haven't explained something very well. Andrew, any other additional thoughts before we jump right in?
No, like Chris said, just if you have questions, type them into the box, and we'll get to them as we go if possible, and if not, we'll get to them at the end.
Awesome. Okay.
All right, so thank you so much to our volunteers. first one, Chris pulling up, is tvps.com. And we have invited the person who submitted this site to be here with us today, and I'm going to go ahead and unmute him. This is Tim from Detroit, Michigan. Tim, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being brave enough to submit a site. Okay, so Chris, let's get into this.
Yeah, so let me just give, so that we're all on the same page, I'll just give a little bit of background that Tim provided for us. So his ideal customer tend to be hospitals, police departments, law firms, basically organizations that are looking for a complete dictation solution. They tend to order large quantities of particular items for their offices. And so this is their home page, and like Andrea mentioned, we're not actually going to start on the home page. Tim sent us over a couple of landing pages that he sends traffic to. And so I wanted to pull up, if we have time, we'll review both of them. But the first one that I'm going to pull up is actually is a product, a specific product that they're sending people to. So looks like this is an Olympus digital dictation portable voice recorder. And so again, what I want to do is I want to assume that I am a potential customer that's interested in this particular product, and assuming that I have never seen the site before, and I have just come from a paid search ad, and I've landed on this site. So a couple of things that jump out to me as I come to the site, and a couple of areas that I see opportunity for. So first, there's a couple of just kind of general best practices. So we see that there's a related items panel over here on the right. So this is, images tend to be one of the first things that people look at when they get to pages. Just naturally, our eyes will look at images. And so probably the first thing that I'm going to notice is the picture of the actual product that I'm looking at. And then my eyes just kind of naturally, after I've read the title of the product, my eyes just kind of naturally start looking at some of these other products that are on the page. And so one potential area of opportunity that I see, and you kind of see this as a best practice on sites like Amazon or other e-commerce type sites, is moving this down below the fold, so below my immediate frame of vision. And when I say below the fold, I mean this initial screen that I'm looking at when I get to the site. So this is kind of the above the fold is a widely debated topic. This first screen that I see, people talk a lot about whether or not it really matters. And in my experience, and I've run hundreds of tests, it matters a lot. And the reason that it matters a lot is not because people are not going to see anything else on the page, but it's because it is people's first impression of this particular page. And so you want to make sure that the information that they're seeing, that the pictures they're seeing are adding clarity, and that it's reinforcing what they're expecting to see, right? So if I've clicked on an ad from Google to look at an Olympus digital dictation portable voice recorder, that's really what I want to see. That's what I want my main focus to be on. And so there may even be opportunity to make this main image a little bit bigger, again, to kind of reinforce what I'm expecting to see from the site. It looks like there's some additional images. So these may be helpful images to show immediately on the page. I mean, again, not to reference Amazon too often, but Amazon does show these types of these additional images right below the main hero product image. So so that's something those are a couple things that I would suggest from an image standpoint. Now, from a distraction standpoint, yes, go ahead.
Real quick, desktop or mobile traffic?
Go ahead. Oh yes, I apologize. I didn't bring that up. So Tim told us that the majority of his traffic is desktop. So for both of the sites that we're going to review, actually, we're going to be focusing the majority of our attention on desktop because that's where they get most of their current traffic from. And if we have some time at the end, I will take a few minutes to look at the mobile experience for one or both of these sites. So now moving into kind of the distraction part. So we already talked about these related items up here. One of the things that I look for when I'm looking at either distractions or when I'm looking for what my attention is drawn to, I'm looking at color contrast. So a best practice to take into consideration is you want your call to action, and when I say call to action, I mean you want the thing that you want the user to do, and in this case, it's you want the user to add this product to their cart. So that's the call to action, is add this to your cart. So you want the call to action to really stand out. You want it to contrast the rest of the page. One of the best ways to do that is with color. And so one of the things you'll notice is this call to action button is red, and there's a lot of other things that are red on the site. So, I mean, you have the menu up here that's red. The related items section over here is red. There's a lot of links and text that are red. And that adds to, or one reason that a lot of companies tend to do that is to stick with a brand, right? Some kind of a brand color. And that's great. But what that does a lot of times is it makes your call to action just really get drowned out by all the other colors, the other same colors on the page. So one suggestion that I might make is just changing the color of this call to action button. You could change it to a green. You could change it to a blue, maybe even an orange. And orange might get drowned out a little bit by the other red on the page. But changing that call to action color so that it really contrasts the page, so it really jumps out, and so that it's very obvious to the user what they should do and what they should click on.
I call this the 10 paces back test. If I stand 10 paces back from my monitor, it should be glaringly obvious the next action you want me to take. And this one it's not, because there's red all over the place.
I love that. I love that. Mm-hmm. And I often think of it similarly as kind of a 2 to 3 second rule. If you can't tell in 2 to 3 seconds exactly what I should click on or what I should do, then there's some opportunity for testing. Tim, did you have a comment?
Yeah, that's definitely very helpful, and I know contrast is definitely something that's very important to users when they're looking at the site, and also the moving the related items below the fold makes a lot of sense, because I think it could be distracting for potential customers that are looking to make a purchase.
Right. Yeah, one additional thought that I have for this page is just around the actual content here. So we've got, close to 10 bullet points here, maybe 10 bullet points here. And I might suggest testing the number of bullet points that you have here. What I've found is that it's best to have maybe 3 to 5 bullet points if you're going to have bullet points. Because what happens when you have more than that is it gets a little bit overwhelming for a user to read those. So, bullet points like this, you want these to be the main value points of the product. And so I might suggest going through and figuring out which one of these are the most important, and then moving the rest down here into the description section. So, this description section is great down here for having all of the details of the product. This above the fold section, you really want to just give a high-level highlight of why people should buy the product, because a vast majority of the people will probably just buy if you just give them the best high-level details. There are a minority of people that will go down here and they want to read through all the details of the product. So it's good to keep this information down here. But this above the fold section, like I said, you want it to be clear, concise, and then you want it to be obvious what the user should do.
Should we click that add to cart button?
Yeah, so let's move into the next step here. So once you've clicked add to cart, it brings you to this page here, right? So it takes you right to the shopping cart, which I actually really liked. Some e-commerce sites will, when you click add to cart, they'll give you a pop-up or they'll give you something else to try to encourage you to keep shopping. I actually really like being taken right to the shopping cart. It gives me some kind of a sense of progress. And then there is an option over here to keep shopping. So going based off of the feedback that I gave on the previous step, so one of the things that you'll notice when you get to this page, again, is along the lines of color contrast, right? So the main thing that you want people to do on this page is check out. That's going to be your major point of action here. And again, you'll notice that the checkout button is the same color as most of the other buttons on this page. So I'd suggest testing in a different color for that checkout button. Again, you might consider a green, you might consider a blue color, something that contrasts this page so that it really jumps out. And I might even suggest making the checkout button bigger than all the rest of the buttons. Again, that will just help the user to know exactly what they should do. And one additional thought I wanted to point out, this was on the previous page, but there's this chat functionality over here. I think this is across the site, and this can be a super helpful feature. I've seen chat features like this increase conversion rates by as much as 20% when they're added in and utilized correctly. So I really like that this is here. And at the same time, I might consider testing the way that this chat feature is presented. So, with this yellow and the red, it stands out quite a bit, and that may be good, or it may be distracting for users. And so I would highly suggest testing different presentations of this chat feature down here. So, testing different colors, and maybe even testing getting rid of this large "Let's Talk" graphic right here, and just having this say "Chat with us," "Chat with us now" or something like that. Andrew, any other thoughts on this page?
If the answer to this, that's the whole thing. Is I suggest some things that tank, and we might suggest some that here's to the roof. So this is kind of a little bit higher dollar item, maybe to let's say they're willing to check out, and so have be more. A little
hey, Andrew, you're cutting out a little bit.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So for higher dollar items, sometimes people want to be able to call on the phone or use a chat before they're willing to make the purchase. Mm-hmm. And so maybe the more prominent "Let's Talk" in this case might help. But we don't know until you test it.
Yeah, and if that's the case, so is that true? Do phone sales do better than online sales for you guys?
Well, my client has said that he does find that it is pretty easy for him to close on the phone when he gets an opportunity to talk to a potential customer versus them just looking online. So right. He does find that phone sales work well. I did want to ask you a question about the bullet points that we have over on the prior on the product page, the DS7000. What have you found to be some of the bullet points that tend to convert best for e-commerce type sites? I know this is a little bit different. I know it's B2B, but we've been looking at changing some of the bullet points around on that page and making some of them a little more compelling.
Mm-hmm.
Great question.
Yeah, that is a great question. So I'll give you some thoughts based on what I see here, and then just kind of general best practices. So the ones that jump out to me as the most helpful in this list, so the 30-day money-back guarantee, that kind of a thing is always helpful. And so I might even consider making that one bigger, or creating a specific graphic, some kind of a badge that says 30-day money-back guarantee. That's something that will relieve a lot of potential fear that people may have around buying bigger ticket items like this. And in my experience, testing money-back guarantees almost always increases conversion rate. So if you can call more attention to that, I think that is a very good value point. I think that this 2-year hardware replacement warranty, again, that's another one that can relieve potential concerns that people have. And really what you want to focus on, if you're going to have 3 to 5 bullet points, you want to focus on if there's any competitive advantage that you or the product has over competitors. Competitive advantages are great to highlight. And then any kind of, like I mentioned, any kind of guarantee, warranty, or other things that may relieve a potential customer's concerns. And so those are things that that jump out to me. Now, I do have a question here on this request custom quote. This takes me to a separate page that has a chat box. And so if that's something that you guys would prefer, if you'd prefer them request a custom quote instead of adding to the cart and buying, then I might suggest making that a button that people can click on. If it's not the best action for the user to take, if you don't really want people going and filling out a form, because my guess is if people go and fill out the form, then they're added into some kind of a sales queue, and you guys have to, follow up with them through email or something like that. And so you may have a lower conversion rate on those types of things. And if that is the case, then I might consider even moving this request custom quote, moving that down somewhere below the add to cart button, so that it's not one of the main focuses for the user. Andrew, any additional thoughts?
No, I think that's fantastic advice. Anything else on this site, or should we move on to the next one?
Yeah, I did want to just go into the actual checkout page really quickly, and I'll try to be really quick on this because I know we're short on time. But the checkout page, this was something that I noticed. It was to me, it felt a little bit overwhelming, and part of the reason is that all of these form fields, including the credit card section, it's laid out in a dual column layout. All right, so that can be helpful to try to get all of the form fields into one screen. And what it also does at the same time sometimes is it can just feel really overwhelming to the user. And so what I might suggest doing is either breaking this into steps, so you can have this shipment information on one step, and then have them go into a second step that has the credit card information. Or another way that you can do that is just very clearly moving all of this credit card information down below the fold so that they can scroll down and see that. And maybe even separating this by adding a colored background behind the credit card information. One additional thing that I would do, when people are putting in credit cards, that is usually when they feel the most anxiety. And so if you can do things to relieve some of their anxiety on this step, some ways of doing that is adding trust symbols. So if you have like a security logo that you can add, or even just adding a little box right here that has a lock symbol on it that says secure checkout. Those types of things can really improve conversion rates and can add some feeling of security. And then finally, this place order button, I would just suggest making that much bigger and making it a different color than this keep shopping button, so it's very obvious for the user what to do. So just to kind of recap, so some of the things that I would suggest testing are when you go back to the product detail page, removing some of the distractions or moving them below the fold, so testing some different things around that. Second is being more concise with the bullet points and focusing on on things that will relieve potential customer concerns. And then third is color contrast. Try and use color contrast to your advantage. Make sure that your call to action is just glaringly obvious to your users, so they know exactly what they should do, and so it contrasts the rest of the things on the page. Andrew, any other thoughts before we jump on to the next site?
No, beautiful. Let's move on to the next one.
Okay.
Tim, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Very helpful.
Great. Okay, so we're going to grab Paolo, who is joining us from Genova, Italy.
Hi there, how are you?
Good, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, I've got a bit of an echo, so I'm gonna mute you again. So Paolo, actually, if you just mute yourself, then you can unmute when you want to talk. Okay. So I'll unmute you again. Okay. So Paolo, do you mind muting yourself on your end?
Sorry?
That sounds better.
Yeah, we just had an echo, but it sounds like it's good. Okay, let's go for it, Chris.
Yeah, so just another little bit of background. So again, we're going to focus on the desktop experience. That's where most of the traffic is coming. The target customer here is restaurants, hotels, or businesses that may need high-value items. So you look at these are baking items. They look like kind of industrial type kitchen products, and so we're going to be looking at some of those. In terms of landing pages, so they do drive traffic to their site via paid, either AdWords or other paid traffic sources. And when they do, they're driving traffic to some of these product category pages or to specific product pages. So we're going to start our customer journey on this category page. And what I've also done, the site is in Italian, and I unfortunately don't speak Italian, so I've used Google Chrome to translate this to English. So hopefully they've got the translation accurate here. All right, so I'll jump in here and start pointing a few things out. So again, kind of as we mentioned for our other site, we've got a lot of different colors going on here. It's a very beautiful, color-rich site. And what that also does at the same time when there's a lot of colors happening, so you'll notice we've got a blue drop down right here, we've got a red drop down, we've got a green drop down, and then it looks like a drop down, it's actually just a button. And then we've got a yellow search bar over here. So one of the things that I immediately noticed is that because there's so much color on the page, my eye almost immediately ignores all of the color. So that's one of the challenges that you run into when you add a lot of color on the page, is people might start to ignore a lot of the color experience on the page. And so what I would suggest doing to get around that is I'd suggest using, one predominant color. These buttons up here seem to be secondary calls to action. So these are not the main thing that you want someone to do when they come to this page. And so I might suggest moving all of these buttons over into this left-hand column over here. Like I mentioned, they can be somewhat distracting. And if you move them over in the left-hand column, that will also allow you to move the main products up. And these products are probably the ones that the user wants to see when they come to the site. One other note that I will make here is one other piece of information that we were given ahead of time is that most of the business is done on the phone, as some of these items, are higher value and people want to pay with a credit card. So one thing that we'll keep in mind as we go through the site experience is the main thing that we probably want people to do is call in, right? And so right now people are probably in the exploratory phase. We're on a category page right now, so people haven't picked a specific product. And at the same time, looking at the phone number, it's the only place that it's found is up here in this little graphic up here. And one thing that I'll say is it doesn't quite stand out enough. It looks to me like a banner right now, and it's especially because there is actually a banner next to it. I think one big area of opportunity for you guys is either removing this banner, or if this is an important banner for you guys, again, moving this either to the sidebar over here, or moving it maybe down to the bottom of the page. That will allow the phone number to stand out, and I might even suggest testing removing the image, the graphic around the phone number, and just having, I'm assuming that this text right here, because I can't read it, I'm assuming it says call us toll-free or something like that, or a toll-free number. So I might suggest just having the phone number and that text and removing this graphic, because that will help it appear less like a banner, because people have banner blindness, which means that when people see banners, because we see them so often and we know that a lot of times they're not very relevant to what we're looking at, people will a lot of times just completely ignore anything that looks like a banner. And so if you can make the phone number look less like a banner, that will help it to stand out a lot more as well.
One quick note on this. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Super quick. I've seen some people have some really good results testing images that look more like real people. I mean, this looks like a model of stock photography. Try getting, the grumpy old owner to be there with a headset on, or a phone or something. People, I've seen this happen quite a bit. People kind of relate to that better because Chris is right. You see this, and I live by the mantra, one page, one job. And so if the one job of this page is to get people to pick up the phone and call, you got to try some different things there. So try that. Try getting a real person at the company to have an image there. That would be a fun test.
Absolutely. And one additional thought, just again along the lines of color contrast, is you'll want to make sure that this really stands out from the rest of the page, that the phone number stands out. And so, you know, if you remove the color on these buttons and move them over to the left-hand column here, you can make this phone number red. You could keep it green, actually, because that would probably be the only thing that was green on the page. But again, you want to make sure that the main thing you want people to do is just transparently obvious. Okay, so now let's go into some of these specific product pages. So now we've got, let's see. Okay, these are counters and display cases for pastries. So we've got a lot of different options here. They're obviously expensive, and I'm actually gonna skip this page, and we're gonna go into the specific product page so that we can give you some feedback on the product detail page before we're out of time here. Okay, so one of the things that jumped out to me here when I came to this page is I didn't really know what I was supposed to do. So there's not a button, like an add to cart button that I see when I come to this page. And that was a little bit confusing for me. There's also a lot of text right here. So this, I'm assuming that this is both the product name and the product description, right? And so we've got food bank, neutral, without group, and without evaporator. And then there's lots of description here. So these are kind of some of the details of the product. So this is a lot of text, and I would assume that there's probably a large portion of people that aren't reading it, because when there's a large block of text, people a lot of times will ignore it. And so I'm going to suggest something that we suggested to the last website, is to have just the name of the product up here, and then to maybe have a few bullet points that you can put down here a little bit lower on the page that feature some of these things. Ideal for exposure of pastry, you know, some of these things, front glass curves, tempered, not open, those types of things. So that's the first thing. Second thing is making it seems like I have to pick a length here in order to be able to check out, because I scroll down the page, there's not an add to cart button. And so I'm assuming that before I get my add to cart button, I have to pick a length. And so I would make it pretty obvious to the users that that is what they have to do. So maybe even having step 1, select the length, and then having this box be a different color than the rest of the page, and just have it really, really jump out. So step 1, select the length. And so I select a length, and then the next thing that happens is this box pops up. Select one of the 2 options available. Now this is a pretty obvious button, right? So it wasn't there before. It appeared. It's red. It's pretty obvious that I have to fill this out. So this is is better. So once I select one of these, I assume that, okay, so now I'm taken to a couple of other mandatory fields here. So I have to pick, so now the add to cart button has appeared down here, but I can't select it yet. So again, I would make it very obvious that you have to fill out these things before you can check out. And I would also suggest moving this add to cart button, even though it's a ghost button right now that I can't click. I would suggest moving this up here, because it wasn't very obvious to me that the checkout button or the add to cart button was lower on the page. So again, putting it in the customer's field of vision so they know exactly what they should do, that will be helpful. And again, I know that that we want to drive people to phone calls, but if somebody does want to check out online, we want to make sure that we give them a good experience. So now we select the color options. So let's pick a couple of colors here. So I assume now I can check out. Yeah, so now this add to cart button has been filled in. So if you are able to move this add to cart button up here where the customer is already engaging, so they know what to do. And then one additional thing that I would suggest here is, because the phone call is so important, we already talked about testing a different way of presenting the phone number up here. I might even suggest adding the phone number again down here and saying get additional information, or you know, whatever the call to action for a phone call is. Chat with a live expert. Get a custom order by phone or something like that, and then having the phone number down here as kind of a reinforcement that they can call in and get a consultant to help them through the process. I think, you know, so to kind of reiterate what we're suggesting for this page. So breaking up this block of text and maybe adding some bullet points that are down here, you know, a little bit lower on the page. Making it very obvious that the customer has to fill these fields out before they can check out. So saying maybe step 1, select the features you want. Step 2, you know, choose the color, something like that. And having those very, very obvious as the thing that the customer needs to do. And then moving this add to cart button up here where the customer is engaging with these form fields. Those will relieve a lot of anxiety for, you know, for the potential user. And again, will probably relieve some of that anxiety. We'll make it very obvious what the users need to do. And then finally, adding the phone number down here again with some kind of a call to action around the lines of you know, call us for a custom, or get your custom order by phone or something like that. Andrea, additional thoughts?
Yeah, beautiful. The way this is presented right now just makes me think too much, and I'm sure you've all heard the mantra, don't make me think. That there's a lot of thinking that has to go on here that could be easily alleviated using the things that you suggested, Chris.
Great. Well, I know we're pretty much out of time, so I'll kind of leave it at that. And you know, if you guys would like additional suggestions or would like to go a little bit deeper into the experience, we would be happy to do so. Feel free to reach out to us. So I think what we'll do at this point is jump back in here and go to questions. And you know, I'll just say before we go into questions, you know, if you were listening and your site was not reviewed today, if you would like a site review, feel free to reach out to me. Here's my email address, chris@disruptiveadvertising.com, or feel free to tweet me at Chris Dayley. And we would love to go through and do a live site review with your site as well. So without any additional items there, I'd love to jump in and answer some of your guys' questions.
All right, we've got a couple of questions that I'll go to. People that are on the call, go ahead and open up that question box and type the questions in. Okay, the first question, I'm going to paraphrase this in a little bit. It was kind of long. But explain more about how to use images the most effectively on product pages.
Sure. So I will. I'll give a couple of suggestions, and with the caveat, and Andrea kind of mentioned this earlier, but you know, what we're going through here are test ideas, right? These are things to try out on your site, run some A/B tests, and see what your customers respond best to, because there is not a one-size-fits-all approach for any of these pages. And so with that caveat in mind, that you want to try testing this, for product pages, what I've found to work very well as I've tested on e-commerce type sites, number one, you want the product image to be big, right? And so you see this on lots of different e-commerce sites. It's, you know, it's very large, because with physical products, it's very helpful to the customers to be able to see details, and then to also be able to see all of the additional images. So I do this all the time when I'm shopping. When I'm going to buy a product. In fact, I just bought my wife and I just got a new house, and it came with a surround sound. Thank you. Came with a surround sound theater room, but you have to have like a surround sound receiver box, right? And so I was looking at the receiver box and for receiver boxes online, and I had to plug the wires into the back of the receiver box. So I not only wanted to see the front of the receiver box, I wanted to see the back, and I wanted to be able to zoom in and make sure that it had all the connections that I needed for my home theater system. And so a couple of suggestions. Number one, make sure the products are big, so that the product image is big. Number two, make sure that the other images are also visible. that it's obvious that the user can see them. And number 3, allowing the user to be able to, to hover and zoom in on certain parts of the pictures. Those are features that I've tested on a lot of different e-commerce sites, and that will help the user to really make sure that this product they're looking at is what they're really looking for. Andrea, do you have additional thoughts on that?
No, it's beautiful. Okay, should we go to another question?
Yeah, let's jump into another one.
Okay, this is from Jerry. My designer insists that everything on the page matches. How do I make a case for using a different color for the next action button?
Oh yes, I hear this all the time.
Me too.
And designers love doing this, right? Designers love using a common color theme throughout the site. They love
everything matches and blends and.
Yes, and it's kind of a designer. It's kind of a design best practice. But a lot of times what designers don't realize is that by doing that, they're making everything blend in together, so nothing really stands out. And so a couple of ways that I've approached this, and one of the best ways I think to do this is to just run a test, right? To say, I appreciate, that you want everything to blend in together, and it looks great, but why don't we run a test? Let's create a second version of it, and let's have the call to action really stand out. And let's use a contrasting color. So I mean, if our common color throughout the site is blue, a lot of people like to use blue on their site because it's a really neutral color. So if your common color throughout the site is blue, then use a red button or use an orange button. Something that really contrasts that blue. If your common color is red, then use something like a blue. Use something that's a little bit softer that just really stands out on that. But so running a test can be very effective to help designers see the error in their ways. So that's one thing. Another thing, you can just tell them that Chris told you so.
I like that. That's great. Okay, so that's all of our questions today. That's all the time we've got for questions, I should say. So I'd like to thank everybody for being here. Take just a minute, please, and fill out the survey that comes up when you leave the webinar. And we have loved doing this quick class with you. Chris, anything you want to add?
No, thank you guys for joining today. Thank you for submitting the sites for us to review, and thanks for being open to feedback.
Fantastic. Okay, so any questions, contact Chris at disruptiveadvertising.com. His number is 801-372-7423. Give him a call. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thanks,
have a
guys.
great day. Okay, bye-bye.
Yeah.